What is going on, everybody? How you doing today? My name is Jim Games and I react to videos on the internet, and in today's video I'm going to be reacting to Italy. Now, what I normally do is I'll react to videos from this fantastic YouTube channel called Geography Now. They give you a ton of really fun and useful information in a very quick time frame. I highly suggest checking their channel out. I'm going to link them down below, so definitely check them out. Now, why am I doing Italy as a reaction today? I've been all over the place as far as these Geography Now reactions, but I wanted to do Italy this week, well, for a couple reasons. One, I work in an Italian restaurant. I know a good amount about Italian food and Italian wines, and I love it. Two, I've got a ton of Italian friends. They are some of the most cool, honest, down-to-earth, funny people that I've ever met. So I love the Italians, at least the ones I met here. And three, I've also been covering this band called Måneskin, and they're out of Italy. They just won Eurovision. They're absolutely fantastic. You got to check them out if you haven't and you like rock music, because what they're doing with music and their song structure and stuff like that, yeah, bar none. It's awesome. But we're not going to talk about that. We're here to talk about Italy today. But before we get started, please consider liking and subscribing. It would totally help me out a lot, and I'd truly appreciate it. Also, I got some important links down below you're going to want to check out. I got my Discord link if you'd like to directly contact me or join our community of active users. It's a good time over there. Join the Discord. And also my personal Twitch down there where I do live reactions every Wednesday. All right, we got that out of the way. Let's learn about Italy. Let's switch screens, and let's get right on into it. I'm excited. I'm excited for this one. All right, here we go.
Well, I'm personally excited because today we cover the country where 1/4 of my heritage comes from, Italia. There is no such thing as a single type of Italian. People from Sicilia would almost need a translator to understand people in Veneto. Napoli looks incredibly different from Milano. And people from South Tyrol are like, warum sind wir hier? But for what it's worth, Italy has definitely made its mark. And today we jump in. Va bene? Cominciamo!
It's time to learn geography.
Now! Hey everybody, I'm your host Barbs, derived from my last name, Barbato, which translates to beard man. I'm serious. Hey, laugh all you want, but that just means I might be related to Scipio Africanus Barbatus, the guy who defeated Hannibal in, I think, the Second Punic War. So, I got victory in my blood. Nah, I'm probably related to some ancient guy that sold barley or something. Barley that was eaten by Scipio Africanus Barbatus, who defeated Hannibal. So yes, I still got it. I basically defeated Hannibal. But where was Hannibal defeated? Let's find out in Italy, it's all about tutte le strade portano a Roma. First of all, Italy is that boot-shaped country kicking two deflated soccer balls located in Europe at the heart of the Mediterranean Sea, bordered by France, Switzerland, Austria, and Slovenia in the north, and two microstates are completely engulfed within Italy, the Vatican City and San Marino, which is like the easiest country to sneak into. Like seriously, there's a Japanese restaurant and a sports store next to the entrance with no guards. With two, this makes Italy the country with the most other countries enclaved inside of it. South Africa was so close with Swaziland, but then Mozambique had to exist. Oh, and there was that time Reggio tried to secede from Italy back in the 70s, which almost made it 3, but that's a whole other story. Just look it up. The country is divided into 20 regions with the capital Rome. 5 of the regions have special autonomous status: Sardinia, Sicily, Trentino Alto, or Sud Tirol, otherwise known as South Tyrol, the Aosta Valley, and Friuli Venezia Giulia. The country's largest cities are, of course, the capital Rome, then Milano and Napoli, with the busiest airports being Rome, Leonardo da Vinci, Fiumicino, Milan, Malpensa, and Bergamo Caravaggio international airports. In addition to the 2 largest islands, Sicilia and Sardinia, the country owns over 350 islands off its coast. Finally, there's that land dispute with France over the summit of Mont Blanc, and a small little 2.5 kilometer long enclave in Switzerland called Campione d'Italia, which is kind of like a special spot exempt from the EU value-added tax zone, which makes sense because it has Italy's largest casino. Whew, Italy, you got some complication fanatics going on. The funny thing is, modern Italy once even tried to take a stab at colonialism in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, with areas stretching from the Balkans, Northern Africa, and the Horn of Africa, including a short kind of occupation of Ethiopia, but it didn't last that long because the Ethiopians fought back relentlessly. And to this day, it's back to the boot with 2 deflated soccer balls. Guys, I'll convert metric for you, but I call it soccer, okay? The Canadians, South Africans, Australians, Kiwis, Japanese, and parts of Ireland and the Philippines and Papua New Guinea all agree with me, okay? It's not just Americans that call it soccer.
All right, yeah, it's not just us. You know, speaking of soccer is one of those strange things here in America that's very, very popular everywhere else in the world, but for whatever reason, it's not popular here. I work near a stadium, and in this stadium, they play football. Football is massive here in America, especially in New England. And they also share the stadium with a New England Revolution team, and it's always so funny to see, like, the difference in crowd size. For, like, a Patriots game, like, it's 70,000 people. It's insane. Tickets go for $1,000+. Like, they sell out instantly if you're lucky enough to even get a ticket. Then when it's soccer time, I think soccer tickets are somewhere around like $8 to $20 a ticket, and they might sell a couple thousand at max. At max, it looks empty in a 70,000 seater, but it's just something for whatever reason Americans just never really got into. But I thought it was just America that called it soccer. I didn't realize everyone else called it soccer too. All right, so I don't feel as alone. Let's continue.
Vuoi dire calcio? Okay, good luck with that. Now, this is the part where I typically go down the list of notable sites found in Italy. However, the problem is there are literally too many.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. Italy has more heritage sites than any other country in the world at over 50. We all know about the big guys, so I'm not going to mention most of them. Instead, through my extensive research, here are some obscure, lesser-known, yet equally fascinating spots worthy of noting. The dining table of Bilalante, the Bomarzo Horror Garden, Ai Piapi, a theme park made of rides that...
Is that what are those, roller coasters somehow? Doesn't even look like it looks like they're going, like they're not like at an incline.
Require your own kinetic energy to operate. The necropolis of Banditaccia, La Scarzuola Monastery, the free wine fountain of Camino di San Tommaso.
What?
Let that just sink in. Free wine. The relics of...
You guys got a place in Italy you can go to and just get free wine whenever you want, and then it comes out the fountain? Sign me up. Sign me up.
Of Jesus' apostle, St. Thomas, the geothermal waterfalls of...
Whoa, look at this. Geothermal waterfalls of Tuscany. Look how beautiful that is. I wonder how warm that water is. Damn, that looks gorgeous. Man, I would love to visit someday. It's going to be a couple years before I can get out to Italy, but man, gorgeous.
Tuscany, the sunken city of Baia, the cliffside town of...
Whoa, look at this. The cliffside town of Santa Agata di Gotti. Look at that. I feel like I'd almost like... Can you imagine like living up in like one of these building things here? It almost looks like the building is like built into the cave. It looks like the cave is kind of falling apart here. It looks scary. It doesn't look stable. Oh my God.
Sant'Agata dei Goti, the sulfuric fields of Pozzuoli, that fortress built by that crazy guy, Urbania mummies, the Custino sword in the stone, the 9-layer maze of Villa Pisani, the road of 52 tunnels, the pyramid zone of Castello.
Wait, the pyramid zone? You guys got pyramids out there? I didn't even know there was any pyramids in Italy. What the hell? Okay, so are these actual pyramids, or is this might, you know what this almost looks like? This doesn't look man-made, or maybe it is somehow. There's weird rocks on top of that. This almost looks like it just like occurred naturally, the way that it's built. Looks like it's a wall, or it was but maybe it was carved out somehow. That's pretty cool. I mean, like that little random, like these little random rocks on top. I mean, that does look man-made. But I mean, the general structure of this thing looks like it fits right into the forest. Wow. Okay, let's keep going.
The Incantado heads carved by a crazy guy. There's a lot of monuments made by crazy people. And of course, way too many castles, fortresses, churches, monasteries, museums, and ancient sites to list, but you get the point. Now let's blast off like a volcano, which Italy has, into the next segment, shall we? Now, we all know that Italy is insanely beautiful in so many areas. Everybody wants to see it. I mean, even Mr. and Mrs. Information went there on their honeymoon. You're welcome. First of all, Italy's beauty comes at a cost. The country lies just above the convergence of the Eurasian and African plates in the Mediterranean, but also on the Apennine or Apennini thrust fault line that smashes into Western Europe, and that's how the Alps were formed. Basically, the Alps make like a barrier in the north with the Apennine mountains running along the entire length of the country as like a scoopy spine until it technically ends in the island of Sicilia. Because Italy's mountains are volcanic fault formed, it has created some amazing natural formations like the Dolomiti rocks, the steep sides of Lake Garda, the largest lake in Italy, the Umbria Valley.
Oh my God, I gotta take this back here. I gotta take this
Island
back.
of Sicilia. Because Italy's mountains are volcanic fault formed, it has created some amazing natural formations like the Dolomiti rock.
Look at that. Look at that. That is so gorgeous. And you can see like the massive size of this too by like having like, you know, people as perspective. They got this cheap little chain link fence to save you from falling off the side of this cliff. Man, that is it's just amazing to see stuff like that.
Rocks, the steep side.
And this is gorgeous too. Lake Garda. Wow, that is gorgeous. Look at that water too. It looks really clear. The mountains and everything in the back. Oh my, it's picture perfect is what it is.
Sides of Lake Garda, the largest lake in Italy, the Umbria valleys, the undulating hills of Tuscany. This also means that Italy is kind of split in half east and west, with a major lush basin locked in the north that receives an abundance of fresh snow-capped water melt, creating rivers like the longest one, the Po River, located in the aptly named Po Valley. This valley extends about 650 kilometers, 400 miles, all the way from the French border to the Adriatic Sea, which ends at a little city you may have heard of called Venezia, or Venice. This also means that Italy is a volcanic country. To this day, there are about 30 volcanoes, 3 known active ones, Etna, Stromboli, and the famous Vesuvius, making it the most densely populated and potentially deadly volcanic region in the world.
Yeah, Mount Vesuvius here. So one thing I do know about this is like they grow tomatoes in this general region. And I only know this because I work in an Italian restaurant, and we get a lot of our tomatoes for our tomato sauce from the base of Mount Vesuvius. And yeah, this thing pops off from time to time. And what's cool about like these active volcanoes in Italy and how it affects, you know, grapes and just natural agriculture and stuff like that is the soils from, you know, the lava when it hardens and turns into rock and then eventually turns into sand. Like it has more minerals to it. And it has like, it's just, the rocks have done different things from being heated up and cooled down like that, where it just has a different mineral complexity to it than a traditional scoop of sand or whatever. And it really comes through in wine and in food. This tomato sauce that we use, like, or marinara or whatever you want to call it, you know, it almost has like a very acidic type taste to it. And I think that's due to the fact of it being at the base of this this volcano. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Mount Vesuvius or one of these volcanoes recently started erupting again. I mean, it was a slow eruption, but I saw some videos of it. It might not have been this one, but it was some volcano in Italy, and it was absolutely mesmerizing. But I mean, can you imagine living down over here? Like this, look at the size of this thing. Like I think there's a car down there to put it into perspective as to how large this thing is. And it's a fairly active volcano. Like it's still erupting. Like, I don't know. I'd be constantly worried. I'd be constantly worried this thing's gonna pop off. I like I said, I live up in Boston, and I'm constantly worried about Yellowstone, which is the other side of the country. Those volcanoes popping off and somehow it affecting me over here. I don't know. Volcanoes are super interesting to me.
It's like, yeah, I know I could die, but oh man, the pizza here is totally worth it. Speaking of which, about a quarter of the land is arable, allowing them to grow lots of food. I'm sure you are fully aware of the typical Italian dishes. However, each region kind of specializes in a certain cuisine. In the north, you have foods like polenta, gnocchi, white truffles. Liguria has great pesto. And in South Tyrol, you have Germanic-inspired dishes like noodle dumplings.
Noodle dumplings? What was that? It was like, looked like it was, I don't even know. It kind of looked like gnocchi a little bit.
And strudel. In the center, you have things like lasagna, boar, artichokes, lamb, steak, gelato, pasta, which comes in over 600 variations.
600.
Indisputably, the best wine is in Toscana. The south,
Possibly some of the best wines in the world, not just Tuscany.
is the pizza kingdom, and Napoli is like the capital. Sardinia is known for those cool cheese fritter dumpling things. Italy enjoys a mild Mediterranean climate, only snowing in the north and high altitude areas. Now, despite deforestation and pollution being an issue, and Venice flooding almost every year now, Italy is actually the most fauna biodiverse country in Europe, with over 57,000 species recorded. That's about a third of all European fauna. About 4,800 are endemic, like the Sardinian red deer, the Italian cave salamander, the alpine marmot, Marsican brown bear, the crested porcupine, and the national animal, the Italian wolf. Otherwise, as the 8th largest nominal GDP in the world and the 8th largest exporter, Italy's economy is heavily driven off of industry and production, specifically in luxury items. Major world-renowned companies like Fiat, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Maserati, Ducati, Pirelli, Armani, and Versace, Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, and Prada are key players in keeping Italy afloat. In many ways, there's kind of like a sense of class that's almost expected with being Italian. No matter how intense things may get, you don't just waltz in here with your shoes unpolished. Which brings us to...
You know, that's something I've noticed about like my Italian friends, just in general. Like they always just seem a little bit more put together than us everyday average American people, especially people like right off the boat or people that like live in both countries. Like they always they dress a little bit nicer than me at least. You know, I'll be in jeans and a t-shirt and like they got like dress pants on and a button-up shirt, and it's just some things I've noticed. I noticed they look a little bit more polished. They're a little bit more expressive. They talk with their hands a little bit more. They're a little bit more touchy-feely. They're not like, you know, I'm a little standoffish. You know, like I won't just walk up to someone and hug someone I just met. Like they're not like that, at least the ones I know. Like they go, you're instantly like, as soon as you meet them and you say hello and you shake their hand, they'll pull you in for a hug, and like they're just super embracing. You know, it's awesome. It's awesome to see. I love it. And they're a joy to be around. I wonder if they're like that over there in Italy too. If it's the same thing or if it's just like Italian Americans or something. But they do seem very well put together. And almost to like a little bit of a cocky degree. But maybe it's because they know they look better than everybody else because they're dressed much nicer. I don't know.
Now, being Italian, we've all heard the stereotypes: loud, passionate, hand-gesturing, bad driving, temperate, sensitive, clean freaks that never follow the rules. And as
temperament is a bit of an understatement. Yeah, 100% for sure. I've noticed the temperament a little time. Do not piss an Italian off. Do not get on their bad side. They are feisty. Feisty people.
As offensive as that may sound, it's kind of based off of truth, but with good reasoning. We'll explain in a bit, but first, Italy has about 61 million people in their country, and they are the third most populous country in the EU after the whole Brexit thing, and the sixth in all of Europe. Getting the exact ethnic makeup in Italy is a little difficult because Italy is a lot more diverse than you would think. About 92% of the country identifies as ethnically Italian, although keep in mind that's kind of a broad term considering how many different types and shades of Italian there are, but nonetheless Italian. Whereas about 2% are Romanian, 1% North African, and the rest of the country is made up of a slew of global people groups, everything from Albanian, Eritrean, Chinese, and Ukrainians. They also use the euro, the Type C plug outlet, and they drive on the right side of the road. Now when it comes to Italy, it basically comes down to two things, north and south. Southerners like to jokingly call northerners polentoni, based off of the polenta that they eat, and likewise northerners like to call southerners terroni, which I actually don't even know where that's based off of. My research kind of ended there. If you know, type it in the comments. Basically the north...
Do you know? If you guys know, let it know in my comments. Never heard that before in my life.
Is like where all the financial districts and stereotypical uppity preppy people live, whereas the south is kind of like where the rustic tough people live. Plus, you know, the south is kind of like mafia territory. Oh, come on, everybody already knows it. You have the Costa Nostra in Sicilia, 'Ndrangheta in Calabria, the Camorra in Campania, and the Sacra Corona Unita in Puglia.
So that's interesting. Okay, so you guys still have like mafias and stuff like that over in Italy. Here in America, like we had mobs and the mafia and stuff like that, and it was very big up until like the late 70s, early 80s, and then from there, we kind of stopped hearing about them. You know, we stopped hearing about the mobs, the mafias in New York and in Boston, in my area. Whereas at one point in time, like New York was pretty much run by the mob. And same thing with Boston and everything. Nowadays, you don't hear about that so much, and I've asked like older people that work in my industry that, you know, were affiliated with like people that were kind of in the mob or kind of new people that were in the mob or something like that. And I said, well, hey, whatever happened to the mob? Is the mob still a thing like now? And what I got from my old cop friend who's retired long gone and an old waiter friend of mine, what they said to me is like, they're like, yeah, they used to be much more open and like you'd see them and you'd recognize a made man as he walked down the road. Now it's not like that. Crime is done in a different way, or they dip their hands into different other, you know, avenues that might not even be illegal, and now a lot of what they do is actually legal and they help people and whatnot, at least here in America. So we don't really hear about the mob or any of that stuff very often. But Barbie here is just saying that there's a whole region in different, you know, mobsters in different areas that probably control different, you know, lands and whatnot. So I'd be interested to know that if the mafia is still an issue, or if it's still they have a heavy prevalence. Well, yeah, prevalence in Italy. If you know, if you're from Italy, please let me know, because I'm very curious about that.
Don't worry though, if you visit as a tourist, you should be fine. It's not much of a big deal anymore. I mean, unless you start a mob war by yourself, nothing will pretty much happen. So, no starting mob wars, okay? Got it? Aww. There are so many different dialects and subgroups, like South Tyrol mostly speaks German, kind of. Aosta Valley speaks French, sort of. No, but seriously, the standard Italian language spoken and taught today is based off of the Florentine version of Tuscan Italian, which is kind of like an intermediate between the Gallo-Romance dialects of the north and the Italo-Dalmatian dialects of the south. This all happened because prior to Italian unification, the country was split between multiple kingdoms and states, each with their own semi-Latin based language, which made communication a little bit of a challenge. For example, in standard Italian, you might say di dove sei, but in Sicilian, di uni si, in standard, ciao, come stai, tutto bene, but in Venetian, come vale, tut ben, in standard, forchetta. In Lombard, Peru? This is one of the reasons why Italians attribute the creation of the famous Italian hand gestures. People would travel barely 50 kilometers and find themselves in a hard to understand dialect region. So essentially they had to kind of get their point across fast. There's a saying that Italians have l'arte di arrangiarsi, or the art of arranging, which translates to something like the art of figuring it out on your own. When words fail, hands succeed. There's no specific code, but some generally accepted gestures include things like mi dispiace, sei pazzo, bere vino, bellissimo, delicioso, stai attento, ma cosa dici? Perfetto, and vai la corona. Speaking of society.
So interesting. Okay, so I always just thought that they were, you know, almost like a little just flamboyant. They were just like a flamboyant people where they just talk with their hands and they were just, you know, I don't know, it seemed excitable to me. But apparently there's a reason for it, and a reason why these Italians are talking with their hands is because the dialect and the language can change just within a couple miles. So to explain things, to get your point across, you got to use your hands. You got to, you know, do whatever to, you know, explain your thoughts. So that makes a lot more sense, and I never thought about that. I just thought that they were, you know, very, you know, flamboyant in the way that they talked. You know, they were just that's the way they were. But it makes sense now that hearing this, that, you know, there's probably years and years and years of trying to explain yourself and have a conversation with someone that might not understand what you're saying. They've just come to terms with doing things with their hands. And you know what's kind of funny too is like I've had like Italian people tell me stories, and as they're telling me and using these hand gestures and these motions, the Greeks too actually, like as they're talking and doing stuff, I'm starting to recognize or like even understand the story a little bit more just by their hand movements and how they're picturing things and almost drawing things in the air. And it's quite the visual to have, you know, go along with any kind of story. But I've noticed like it almost kind of helps me out. Even speaking the same language, but seeing the hand movements, it's like putting things into a deeper perspective for me. It's something cool, and I guess I talk with my hands too, but not like them. They literally paint. They paint the story they're telling, and it's wild.
Societal background, we don't have enough time to explain the entire history of Italy, but in the quickest way I can put it, Etruscans, Romans, Christianity, ridiculous amount of separate kingdoms and feudal states, barbarian invasions, Byzantines, medieval kingdoms, Renaissance, Napoleonic invasions, Sardinia, Piedmont unifies Italy after 3 independence wars, or 4 depending on who you ask, mass emigration to other countries begins, World War I, fascism, World War II, resistance movement, after war, economic boom, 2008 crisis, which brings us here today. Basically, the epicenter of ancient Rome was here, hence the capital being named Rome. Speaking of which, even though the Italian monarchy ended long ago, there are still 2 descendants that still exist today acting as heir apparents. The Catholic Church has played a major role in Italy even to this day. Almost every single town has at least one church. About 88% of the country identifies as Catholic, however, only a third say they are active practitioners on a weekly basis. And one of the reasons why Italy has made such a universal mark is partially because between the late 1800s and early 1900s, Italy experienced a mass emigration in which over the years, around 25 million left. This is considered the largest mass migration of contemporary times. Suddenly you have new communities of Italians all over the world in places like Brazil, Argentina, the US, UK, and France. Oh wow, this video is running long, and I didn't even get to talk about the deadly Calcio Florentino game of Florence.
What the hell is that? Calcio Florentino? He said it's deadly. That guy is bleeding. He got hit in the face. Looks like he had some kind of soccer ball, but he had it in his hand. He was like running with it or something. I wonder if it's like some form of rugby. I don't know, man. This guy does not look like an athlete. This guy looks a little bit older. Very hairy. Badass tattoos. He does not look like your traditional athlete. He's also playing in the dirt, whatever sport this is, and he's bleeding. But I mean, this looks like your everyday run-of-the-mill guy too. Like, they don't look like athletes out there. They don't have like any fancy uniforms. This guy's shirtless, except for some awesome sleeves. Man, what is this sport? Calcio Florentino. Have you guys ever played that sport? Are you familiar with that? Is this something that's you see happen pretty often? It looks like it's a smaller venue. I mean, obviously they're outside of some beautiful church, but that's just to be expected in Italy. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what this sport is. I don't see any goalposts. I don't see like any net for like a soccer net or anything. Interesting. Very curious about that. And why is this man bleeding? And he seems to be happy to be bleeding. And look at the size of his hand. Let's move on.
Or the Santa Maria delle Grazie Snake Festival.
What? Why you gotta do a snake festival? Nobody likes those things. Nobody likes those things. You don't even like those things. No way people like snakes. Snakes suck.
Pupi in Sicilia. So many cool things, but we gotta move on. Some notable people either from Italy or of Italian descent might include people like Cicero, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Dante Alighieri, Niccolo Machiavelli, Donatello, Caravaggio, Galileo Galilei, Christopher Columbus, Amerigo Vespucci, Marco Polo, Niccolo Paganini, Giuseppe Garibaldi, Luigi Pirandello, Federico Fellini, Luciano Pavarotti, Andrea Bocelli, Umberto Eco, Sofia Loren, Valentino Rossi, Roberto Baggio, Monica Bellucci, Silvio Berlusconi, Enzo Ferrari, Donatello Versace, Giorgio Armani. Mainstream American artists of Italian descent might include so many stars like Frank Sinatra, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Sylvester Stallone, Leonardo DiCaprio, Steve Buscemi, Quentin Tarantino, Ariana Grande, Lady Gaga. Even Nicolas Cage has some Italian in him. Again, Italian people have such a strong and solid history and culture, but what does the rest of the world think of them? And what do they think about their neighbors? Well, that brings us to... Italy is a really great guy once you get to know him, but that's just the thing. You gotta warm up to them, al dente style. First of all, France is like their best frenemy. They smile at each other, but secretly they're always trying to compete with who has the highest class and elegance. They also hate the fact that France has Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. Nonetheless, with historical bumps like World War II, they still cooperate well today. Argentina is like their adoptive daughter that they sent to Spanish boarding school, but they still fiercely refuse to make friends with their neighbors. As mentioned in the Argentina video, the majority and largest demographic of people in Argentina have Italian heritage, and they love doing business business with Italy. Malta and San Marino are kind of seen as like their little sons that they love helping out, even though San Marino is like way older than the modern unified state of Italy, but that's besides the point. They think it's cute how Malta speaks their own language that kind of incorporates Italian words, and San Marino is like their good luck charm, whom more or less has always been peaceful and drama-free since the 4th century. Of course, the Vatican is like a unique player that they pay their respects to, but will not give the opportunity to raise another empire, and hence they keep them confined to the Basilica grounds. In terms of their best friends though, literally every Italian I talked to has said the exact same two countries, Greece and Spain. As mentioned in the Greece episode, they live by the una faccia una razza rule, one face, one race. These three countries make the trinity of the Mediterranean. You know it's gonna be a good time when you put a Spaniard and a Greek and Italian in the same room. Nothing can stop them. They own the seas, they trade, they share stories, they drink together, they marry the crap out of each other. In conclusion, for centuries, Italy has been a beacon of art, literature, fashion, architecture, history, religion, cuisine, traditions, and landmarks to the rest of the world. And personally, I'm proud to be a part of it. But most importantly, I'm proud that my barley-selling bearded ancestors basically killed Hannibal and saved the universe. And I get to take like at least 40% of their credit. So basically, I saved the universe. Totally true, not made up, 100% fact. Stay tuned, the Ivory Coast is coming up next.
Very cool. Yeah, these guys are great. Geography Now. Like I said, if you haven't checked them out, check them out. I'm going to have a link down below. As far as what I knew about Italy going into this, like I said, I understood some of the food, some of the wine, and I have some Italian friends. It was interesting to learn more about some of the way that they talk and why they use their hands. That was interesting to me because I just didn't know that, you know, there's so many different dialects and languages and things like that, and it was so closely intertwined where you might actually need to use your hands to explain yourself. And they've been probably doing that for a very long time, and it's basically like in your blood at this point. Let's talk about like the Italian-American friends that I have right now. Like what I've learned from them and what I know from them. First off, I love them. They're awesome people. They're hilarious. They're very over the top. They're very flamboyant in their looks and just how they talk and just like how they live, you know. But at the same time, they're also incredibly deep-seated, like just down-to-earth, like good people. Like they want the best for you. Like you ever have those friends that are like kind of jealous when you're doing something good, but they're like they want that for themselves. They want to see you fail or whatever. I guess they're not really friends or acquaintances. I don't get that vibe from my Italian friends. Like they're kind of happy when you're happy, but they definitely can be. They got a trigger. They got a hair-thin trigger. At least my friends. I haven't pissed them off that I know of. I'm pretty sure they would just let me know. But like I've seen other people piss them off, and I've seen these guys go off. I've seen them go off. They get so angry. They get so worked up and so riled up, and they just talk a mile a minute, and it's just you can't calm them down. So maybe that's why I've never gone out of my way to anger an Italian on purpose. Well, no, I take that back. My wife's Italian. I anger her all the time. She's like Italian, Irish or something. But for the most part, yeah, like they just seem like very aggressive people in that way. How they dress, that's the thing too that like kind of like I've always, I guess, admired is like they always just seem very well put together. They don't seem as like lackadaisical as like other Americans, how we are here with just jeans and t-shirts and a baseball hat on most of the time. Like they present themselves. They like steam or iron their clothes. Like they look like they're ready to go out at any given point. They carry themselves very well. They also work out more than us. Like they're more like conscientious of like their appearance. So like they want to be like in the gym and doing stuff like that. So at least with my Italian friends, they're in better shape than I am. But I think that's because they just work out more than I do. I think it's because that's just what they care more. You know, they care more about their physical appearance. It seems like their clothing styles. So from like what I've seen from like friends that are Italian, when they have like a cousin that's from Italy come over and stay for a little while or whatever, I always find it interesting, like the styles, like what's popular over there right now. They obviously bring their popular clothes that are over there right now over here to America, and I kind of get to see that, and it's like a very strange fashion choice. For at least for me, like I wouldn't choose to dress like that. Like their leisure wear, you know, it's very bright colors, kind of patchy in spots. It all looks super premium and probably really expensive. But I'm in the camp of like a plain t-shirt, and if I'm going to put a logo on my shirt, you better pay me for that. I don't even like having this here. In fact, I might just black this out. But yeah, but that doesn't seem to be the case over there. And maybe it's because there's so much brand recognition. You know, you have so many amazing, you know, brands out there. Ferrari, you know, Versace, and some of the best restaurants and wine, and so many amazing things that are just known to this one area where they're just kind of fine with it, I guess. But Italy is just one of those places. It's on my bucket list. I've always wanted to go. especially with how I work with wine and food and whatnot. I'm gonna go someday. It's gonna happen. It's just probably not gonna be anytime soon until I get things re-straightened out here with my life here in America. But this was very informative. It was fun to watch, and thank you so much for being here with me and just kind of experiencing this with me. If you're from Italy, or if you've been to Italy, or you have any information you want to share with me, please post it down in the comments. I'm pretty active down there, and I'd love to hear from you, honestly. Like I said before, I got some couple important links down there too. The community Discord, if you want to join the community here and get an idea of what we're doing and upcoming videos and whatnot, join that Discord. And if you'd like to be part of a live reaction show, I do have that Twitch link down there as well. But that's going to do it for me tonight, guys. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I had fun hanging out. I'm going to catch you out on the next video. Bye now.